Welcome in to the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe, presented by BetOnline. I'm Ross Geiger, the former NBA video coordinator, and I'm joined alongside Bruce Bernstein, our four-time Emmy Award winner, who spent more than 3 decades at ESPN producing NBA shows, SportsCenter, and soaking up knowledge from the best hoop analysts in the business. And also joining us, per usual, is the 2-time Emmy Award winner, Michael World B. Freer, who's a senior writer at StatFactor, specializing in writing advanced statistical NBA reports for various announcers across the league. This is episode number 131, the Cedric Maxwell episode, as the Celtics legend wore number 31 for 6 seasons with the Boston Celtics, while on his way to winning 2 championships, as well as earning himself the 1981 Finals MVP honors. And Maxwell's most recent accomplishment was being lucky enough to be interviewed by our very own Bruce Bernstein.
Yeah, I was at the Basketball Hall of Fame over the summer. I think that was in late July, doing the Hoop Hall Hangout, which is like a kids event. So I interviewed Max. We had a great time. One of my really best friends, Mike Eisenberg, who's an agent, actually has written a book with Max, and he's about to write another book with Max too. So love Max. We had a great time, and he's not coming on the podcast, but I still love him.
Yeah. All right there. Well, before we get things rolling here tonight, just a quick reminder, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA, head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. And as the season rolls on, fellas, I thought we could play some buy or sell on tonight's episode. And we're going to start out with buying or selling on some NBA teams. And so first up is a game that's currently going on between the Cleveland Cavaliers and Boston Celtics. But the subject matter here is going to be the Cavs. And the question is, will the Cavaliers be a title contender? Buy or sell? Bruce?
Well, when a team starts 15-0, the answer is kind of obvious, but it's still early, and with all the injuries we've seen, it doesn't take much to completely mess up a team. But that said, Cavaliers are a really deep team. They got 10 guys playing at least 17 minutes a night. Ty Jerome and Karis LeVert, a dynamic duo off the bench. Mobley and Allen, 2 awesome bigs on the boards. Spider and Darius Garland, dynamic scorers. And look, I'm saying yes. They're playing Boston as we record this. There's about 5 minutes left in the game. It's been back and forth, but Cleveland is clearly an excellent squad under their new coach, Kenny Atkinson.
World B, are you buying or selling on the Cavs being title contenders?
I would buy them. I would say, however, a couple things to keep in mind. They've played the easiest schedule in the league so far, so that hasn't hurt their ability to start 15-0. That being said, they have the best offense in the league, which is saying something when you're dealing with the Celtics. They have the most efficient offense in the league. They're by far the best shooting team in the league, which, if you were watching the game between these two teams on Tuesday night, you wouldn't think so, the way Boston's been draining threes. But it's the Cavaliers that have the only team in the league that had an effective field goal percentage in the 60s. So, they're absolutely a title contender in an Eastern Conference that is competitive. But really, at this point, it's just Cleveland and Boston until further notice.
Yeah, we are definitely on hold to see who else rises to the top of the Eastern Conference. I'm with the both of you. I am definitely buying this as the Cavs look like title contenders. And I'm glad you brought up the depth there, Bruce, because they really are 1 through 10 as far as the rotation is concerned. They've got a lot of guys that they can plug and play at any given time. Ty Jerome, he's been big tonight on Tuesday against the Celtics. I've seen him earlier on this year in games. Darius Garland's either struggled or maybe Garland's been out of the lineup. Ty Jerome's just been plugged right in there and brings a NBA-ready production off that bench and is totally fine and not flustered if he has to start games or play with the starting unit. And that kind of goes for this entire squad. Georges Niang, he is a solid veteran that can be plugged in there at the 4. He has been used to starting in the past. And then you bring up just the versatility of their bigs. I mean, Evan Mobley, he's going to create problems all season long for opposing teams because he is a four that can certainly move across the floor, has great feet, good hands, shot blocker alongside Jarrett Allen. So just two great two-way bigs there, both rim runners. And I think this team has a lot of tools for Kenny Atkinson to continue to use and continue to win games. Now, next up we'll start with you. We've got the Golden State Warriors. Buy or sell, are they a title contender this year?
I absolutely think they are.
Wow.
I said in our preview that they were one of the teams. I said the two old teams were going to have one more run in them, that being the Warriors and the Lakers. And the Warriors have been absolutely fantastic this season overall. They're top 5 in both offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency. They're top 5 in shooting. They're top 5 in opponents' effective field goal percentage. So they've done it at both ends. And here's one thing to consider. When we talk about, I've heard a lot of chatter so far this season about what would possibly happen to LeBron's legacy if he won one more championship. Would that cement his status as the greatest of all time? And it's been debated, and it's fine. It's no problem there to have a debate. But what happens if the Warriors go and win one more title for Steph Curry?
Yeah.
Does Steph Curry suddenly become in the top 5 of all-time starting lineup? Is he become the best point guard ever? It used to seem blasphemous when you have a Magic Johnson around who, for my money, was always the best forever as the point guard position with his passing and his size and the ability to do so much. But what happens if Steph Curry matches him for titles at this stage of his career after they lost a Hall of Famer in Klay Thompson and they get better and win a title? This is a really intriguing season for them. And they've come out, just ask the Celtics. They went in there and beat them up in Boston really bad. So they've been really, to me, the most impressive team in the Western Conference.
Yeah, no question about that. Now, Bruce, before I ask for you to buy or sell on this one, do you have any remarks there on what World B said? Could he become possibly the best point guard ever if he were to win a championship after the dynasty's been broken up?
Well, I mean, look, he's going to definitely be in the conversation. I mean, is he truly a point guard? I mean, he's the greatest shooter I've ever seen. He's not, his assist numbers are not going to be anything like Magic's or John Stockton's, but as a combo guard, I mean, look, who would you rather have shooting the ball with the game on the line? I mean, because as soon as he gets over half court, he's ready to jack it up there, and he's made lots of them. So, look, he's clearly one of the all-time greats. Even if he were retiring tomorrow, he's right there because 4 championships. I mean, come on, he was the mainstay. He was the best player on all 4 of those teams. So, well, I take that back. When Durant was there, they were kind of alphas, but Durant left and they came back and won again. So, I mean, Steph to me is like, he's just right there with the all-time best ever. Certainly the best shooter.
Yeah, and I think I agree with World B because whenever it comes to those Twitter or Instagram posts, pick your starting 5 all time and you've got money. I mean, I've always had Steph Curry in those lineups because you want the greatest shooter of all time on your team. I mean, who wouldn't? So I think you got a case, World B. I'm glad you brought that up. Now, Bruce, as far as buyer or selling on title contention for the Warriors, what's your take there?
They sure look like a team to be reckoned with as far as I'm concerned. I mean, look, if it was just, Buddy Hield and Curry, making a bunch of threes, I wouldn't be convinced. But their defense has been tremendous. World B cited some of the numbers. They are the second best three-point shooting team, but they're the best at guarding the three-point line. Opponents only shoot a little over 31% from the arc, and they make a ton of threes. They make 16 of them a game, second only to Boston. They're a good road team, 6-2 on the road. They got road wins at Boston, Houston, and OKC already, right? 3 of the top, 2 of the top teams. And Houston at 10-5 is a team that, you got to put them, we got to talk about them. I know a little bit later, but they've been excellent. And just, I've said this before. One of my hoop gurus, Dr. Jack Ramsey, the late great, always told me the most important stat on defense is opposing field goal percentage. So they're 3-point opposing field goal percentage, best in the league, and they're third overall in opposing field goal percentage at just over 43%. And one of the things that I noticed as I was kind of doing some research for this, Steph is playing like almost 4 fewer minutes a game this year. Okay. And he's still at 23 points, 43% from downtown. So if you keep that up and you can reduce his minutes, he's only playing 29 minutes a game. He's going to be fresh. He's going to be, there at the end. And and Buddy Hield, we've talked about already. I don't need to go back in that again. 46% on threes for him. So yes, Golden State is right there. And yes, I would buy.
All right. By the way, I think real quick, I'm sorry. Bruce mentioned Curry's minutes. This is a deep team, by the way. They don't have anybody averaging 30 minutes a night, and yet they have 11 players who average 15 minutes a night. And there was one other guy who would be 12 that's averaging 14-7 a night in minutes. So, I mean, this is a deep team. They know they lost Clay, but they added a lot. And like Bruce said, they keep the minutes down and keep them healthy. Now, that's a big if when you have Steph and you have these guys aging and whatever. If you keep them healthy, this team's going to be in for the long haul, I believe.
Yeah, I'm glad you raised that point there, Will Be, as far as the health of this team, because I'm actually going to zag on this one when it comes to, are they a title contender? Because I think they can be worn down in a 7-game series come playoff time. We all know once the playoffs begin and it becomes tightly competitive ball games, Steph Curry, say goodbye to those 4 minutes that he's been saving during the regular season. Now, that might pay off in the long term for, game 86 on the season for Steph in the playoffs. But I just don't know if they have what it takes, given just how old Draymond Green is. We know he can get into some antics. He's kept good behavior so far to start the season, but it only takes 1 or 2 things to not go his way, and he can be derailed there. So given Draymond's antics, what we've seen historically from him, Steph's concerns with his health and having to play more minutes in the playoffs against some younger teams too. Let's face the facts here. Some of these teams rising to the top of the Western Conference are young guns that have fresh legs, high energy. So I have questions there. And then my other question is, come trade deadline, is this a team that's going to stand pat, or are they willing to be bold and take a swing to maybe add to this roster? I mean, obviously right now they're sitting at 10-3. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But if some intriguing players that kind of fit their style come available at the deadline, do they make the move, or do they stand pat with the cohesion of this group that's doing well right now? Those are questions that I have. I'd be curious to see what Mike Dunleavy in that front office does. But for the purpose of this exercise, I'm zagging at the moment. Next up, we're going to talk about one of the young teams here. We're going to go with the Houston Rockets, Bruce. Are they a 50-win team, buy or sell?
No, I'm selling on that one. The West is just too tough. They'll get to the high 40s, I think. My preseason prediction was 44 wins for them. I think it's going to be a little bit better than that. I don't think it's going to be 50. They had a really tough 1-point loss at Milwaukee on Monday, snapped a 5-game win streak, but they're still 10-5. Alpi Şengün had a battle Giannis and Brook Lopez pretty much on his own, and it was a lot to overcome. Jabari Smith wasn't very good. Tari Eason was pretty good with 9-14. But they're a very rugged defensive team, and when you're a rugged defensive team, they're second in the league with opponents' field goal percentage, 43.1. They lead the league in rebound differential, and they're 5th in point differential. So they're definitely a team on the upswing, but I just don't see them getting to 50. I could see like 47, 48.
All right. Will be?
I'd sell on this, but it's just the West is tough, and I just have questions about their offense going forward. First, the positives. Their defense is elite. I mean, they're third in defensive efficiency, and they're second in opponents' effective field goal percentage. They're one of 2 teams holding opponents to an effective field goal percentage under 50%. That's excellent. Now the bad news. Their offense is weak. They're efficient. Oh, they're getting better efficiency-wise. They're in the upper half. They're 13th in offensive efficiency. That's not bad. but they can't shoot. They absolutely cannot shoot. Bottom 5 in effective field goal percentage. They're good at avoiding mistakes. Now, there's the mixture of young and old, and they don't make a lot of mistakes, which is good. They're in the top 5 in turnover rate, so that's positive. But when your best player, I'm told, is Jalen Green, and Jalen Green has an effective field goal percentage under 50%, and he's never gotten better in his career over a long stretch, I just can't buy into him yet. Good defense, great defense. Offense is suspect.
Yeah, I would agree there. Just don't tell Jalen Green he's not an efficient shooter, because that boy likes to throw him up there. But I'm also selling on this. I don't think this is a 50-win team. I think they're going to make some significant progress this year, show some big-time growth and development from some of their younger players. Jabari Smith Jr.'s look good in stretches. Jalen Green's had his moments, but of course, I mean, it's the law of averages with him as a shooter. But let's keep in mind, when this team goes into the playoffs, I mean, they could have a new look. This is a group that has draft assets and also players, younger players that they could move off of, guys that aren't even really playing major minutes here that could significantly impact other so-called playoff teams that need help. So keep an eye on them, because they could be one of those bigger dark horses in the West that don't reach 50 wins, but then surprise us all come playoff times. But as the roster stands now, and given the Western Conference, I've got to sell there with you guys as well. Next up, we've got the Los Angeles Lakers. Will they avoid the play-in tournament and finish with a top 6 record out West? World B, buy or sell?
I'm going to buy this.
Okay.
With some reluctance, because I know they're one of the nice stories of the moment. They have a nice 5-game winning streak and all this stuff. But if you look at who they've beaten this month overall, they've beaten the Raptors twice. They've beaten the 76ers, the Grizzlies, the Spurs, and the Pelicans. Only the Grizzlies you would look at that and go, that's a nice win. So the rest of them are just dicey wins. And the lineup, it's still I don't want to say a mess, but it's definitely uncertain. I mean, Cam Reddish is playing now instead of D'Angelo Russell. I mean, you're not winning games. You're not getting a 60 with Cam Reddish on your starting lineup for the rest of the year. That's just how it is. I don't think that'll be the case. But you know what? They're solid when the game's on the line, and those what they call clutch minutes. I mean, they're solid. They're outscoring teams by almost 20 points per 100 possessions. That's an absolute positive for the Lakers' chances. And when you have AD and LeBron playing the way they are, there's no reason for me not to say buy at the moment, reluctantly.
Yeah.
With some trepidation, let's put it that way.
It sounds like you're speaking from some experience with Cam Reddish in the starting lineup.
Anybody. He's been on a number of teams, so I'm not the only one that can speak to this.
Fair enough. Bruce, what's your take on the Lakers?
I'm selling. They're not going to make the top 6. The West is too deep. And even though the Lakers are great at home, they need to be better on the road, at least, what we've seen so far. But, with LeBron and AD, they can beat any team on any given night. Dalton Connect has been really great for them shooting threes. He's at 40%. He's been efficient, 9 points a game in 20 minutes coming off the bench. And it's funny, they shoot a pretty good percentage from downtown, but they don't take enough threes. I mean, they should shoot a few more of them. Their opponents shoot an average of more 3-point attempts a game than they do. Now, look, AD's playing MVP quality ball. LeBron just defies father time. But AD's health is always a concern, and LeBron turns 40 in late December. And if either of them misses any significant time, JJ Redick's going to have a real problem. So I'm selling. I think they're a play-in team.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I'm going to sell on this one, or I agree with Bruce, I should say, because this seems pretty handcuffed, if you ask me. I mean, they're relying upon Anthony Davis staying healthy, LeBron James continuing to put up all-star numbers on every given night. And so far, not just despite, some of the teams that they've played, like Will B pointed out, I mean, this is a team that's 3-4 on the road to start the year. They're actually undefeated at home at 6-0. So if you can't win on the road, you're not going to be able to withstand a top 6 position in the Western Conference, if you ask me, given how competitive it's going to be down the stretch to kind of get in that top 6, because everyone's going to be shooting for that to avoid a play-in scenario and having to play those extra games. So as for me, I've got to sell on this one, just given the fact that this team really is handcuffed all around. There's not many other solutions or trades that could happen. I don't think anyone wants D'Angelo Russell. And so now we're stuck with Cam Reddish playing starters minutes, as Will B pointed out there. So no way I can buy that stock at the moment. Next up, we've got my Milwaukee Bucks here. And it's a big question going around the media circle right now. Is this a playoff team out east, Bruce?
Yes, they're a playoff team. They pulled out a win over Houston on Monday. They're 5-9 right now, only 1-6 on the road, which is putrid. But look, I'm not making any judgments about this team until we see what Chris Middleton can do when he returns. I won't rule them out as a playoff team. For all their early season issues, they're only a game and a half out of the 6th spot right now. So, with Giannis and Dame, they're top heavy. They need a third guy like Middleton to provide some balance for them on offense. Gary Trent, oh, by the way, is no longer on the side of a milk carton. He's resurfaced in the past 3 games, going 9 for 17 from downtown, which is what he was brought there to do. And the Bucks are 2-1 in those 3 games, with the only loss coming by 1 point. So I think, watch the team when Middleton comes back. I think they'll be fine. And like I said, for all the horrible games they've had, they're only a game and a half out of 6. So yes, they're going to make the playoffs.
All right, Will B.
I'm buying this, although I don't think they're no longer, in my eyes, a title contender, which is where I thought we were going with this team when last season began. I thought that was the story. It was them and the Celtics, and now, 13 months later, it's just the Celtics. This is not a good roster mix. It just isn't. Damian Lillard looks like he's just out of his element in this setup. I mentioned before, they don't run up and down the court, despite the fact they have the best transition ball player in the game in Giannis, who constantly leads the league in transition points, but they don't get out in transition. So that kind of is a moot point. The defense is getting better, so that's a positive. Their offense is still lousy. There's just no other way to say it. They're 21st in efficiency. You don't have to be this year. You don't have to be great offensively to succeed. The efficiency numbers are down. Defense is up on the rise, but you got to be better than bottom 10 if you want to be a serious contender. I think they can get in. It might be more of an indictment on the Eastern Conference than Milwaukee's ability to become a playoff team. It's not really as much about them. It could be process of elimination. Somebody's got to get into play in that mix, and probably it'll be Milwaukee, but they're not looking any better than they were in the first round last season, the first round 2 seasons ago. I mean, if they're a playoff team, that's it.
Yeah, it's been a broken record thus far as keeping the optimism with this team, and still falling down on some of the struggles that they haven't been able to overcome. And for me, I'm also going to buy that they're a playoff team, but certainly agree that they're at this point in time, they're not a title contender. There's just been zero consistency from this group, whether that be performance-wise from Damian Lillard, guys like Brook Lopez, who had an outstanding game on Monday night against the Rockets at home in that 1-point win. And then even consistency with like a guy like Bobby Portis. I mean, he got off to a horrible start, but now he's getting inconsistent minutes off Doc's bench. So still really don't know what we have with this group. They should be thinking they're lucky stars that they're 5-9. And as you pointed out, Bruce, are a half game back from even just the 10th and final playoff spot. I mean, going into the year, we thought the East was going to be much more improved with some of the moves that were made with KCP going to Orlando. Of course, Karl Anthony Towns coming over. They're very lucky to be where they're at right now. So there is some time for them to kind of get into a groove here to be a playoff team and maybe an interesting first round matchup. And obviously, if you get some momentum in the playoffs, anything can happen when you have a guy like Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo leading your group. But yeah, lots to still unfold and unpack with this group, unfortunately. And it seems like we should have all that sorted out by now, and we don't. So,
by the way, still a sub 500 team since Doc took over last season. They're certainly not even close to 500 since he took over. So, when does, I know the lineup's a mess, but when does Doc start becoming that Hall of Fame coach? I hear he is. When does that happen?
Yeah, he's got some work to do there. Now, before we head into break here, I just want to point out, did you guys see the end of that Rockets-Bucks game on Monday night? Because the Bucks just barely avoided another disastrous end there, as there was a no call on Sengun kind of pushing off Giannis there, and thankfully he fumbled the basketball. It was a good, not great pass from Van Fleet, but given the circumstances and the ball pressure on the inbounder, I thought it was right within reach for him to do it. And that was almost 3 straight games they lost because of a no call. Can you believe that, Bruce?
Well, Milwaukee, Doc's been complaining for a while. And, it's funny with Giannis, watching the calls he gets and the calls he doesn't get, it's kind of weird. It almost reminds me a little bit of LeBron, in that he's so powerful that he plays through a lot of contacts, and, they don't stop him. And there could be a lot of and ones that he doesn't get, because he just powers his way to the hoop. But then on the other hand, he throws his shoulder into guys a lot, rolls his way to the basket, and they could call a lot of offensive fouls on him, or at least some, let's say, that they don't. So with Doc, if he's going to complain about calls, probably don't complain about any with Giannis, because he gives as good as he gets.
Yeah, I think they kind of...
Did Doc complain the other night about the call that when Giannis got called for the foul against LaMelo Ball there at the end of that game, when he got
he sure did.
Just checking. That was a good one to complain about.
Yeah, he had $25K taken out of his piggy bank for his statement after that game too. But I think honestly the no calls and the calls kind of counterbalance themselves, Bruce, because there are plenty of times Giannis is ultra aggressive getting into the lane, driving towards the rim, and there's some no calls on blocks or charges. They just let him go, and typically that benefits Giannis, because if he misses the ball or if he misses the layup, he's getting the ball because his man's on the floor, and he's already 6'11" with his probably a 7'6" wingspan reach up there. He's going to just tap it back in and get a nice little offensive rebound while he's at it. So I think we gotta be realistic here with some of these calls. I think it's good how it is now, because I'd rather Giannis stay out of foul trouble and they miss some calls than the other way around. So,
and it's also better if he does what you said, which is basically pound the glass, as opposed to going to the free throw line and maybe missing one of two, maybe missing them both.
Yeah, great point there. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take our halftime break here and be back with you here on 48 Minutes. And we're back with more buy or sell, but let's go ahead and move on to some players here. And we're going to start out west with Anthony Davis. Is he either an MVP or Defensive Player of the Year candidate at the end of the season? Buy or sell, Bruce?
It's I'm going to buy on the Defensive Player of the Year. I'm going to sell on the MVP, because I just don't think LA is going to finish high enough in the standings for him to really be considered for the MVP. I mean, guys like SGA, Jokic, perhaps Jason Tatum, perhaps someone on Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell, who knows? So I don't think he's going to win MVP, although he's playing at that level right now. If they had a better record, he'd be right there. And his health is the whole key to their team. I mean, look, it'd be great for LA to crack the top 6 in the West. It's just as important for AD to be in top physical form come April. Last year, he played 76 games. Only the 3rd time in his career he topped 70. So let's hope he plays at least 70. And if he does, the DPOY award could very well come down to AD versus Victor, and then it's a toss-up.
Yep, and I was going to mention Victor to you before I asked you this question. I mean, it's only been 15 or so games. Do you think he can make a comeback here with the defensive numbers, or are you going with AD?
I think he can. Victor can make a comeback. I think he'll end up being the Defensive Player of the Year. I buy on AD being a candidate for both awards. Whether he gets it or not, but Bruce mentioned if they are in the play-in field again, probably not. What if they get to 50 wins, though? What if they get into the top 4 somehow in the West? Which, by the way, is not out of the realm of possibility. The Western Conference, while it's deep, is not looking all that powerful as long as a team like Denver is mediocre, as long as a team like Minnesota is going, half-ass so far this season. As long as these teams aren't going to step up, why can't the Lakers be one of those teams? That being said, Bruce mentioned it's going to come down to health. For me, it's down to health with AD. If he's healthy enough to play 75 games again and put up the numbers he's been putting up, listen to these numbers: 31 points a game, 11 rebounds a game, 2 blocks a game. In the history of the NBA, only 2 players have ever done this in a season. Bob McAdoo did it 3 times, and Kareem did it once. It hadn't been done in almost half a century. So, to these numbers, are they going to continue? Probably not. If they do, you better believe AD is going to be a candidate for both awards.
Yeah, I would say I'm buying the fact that he's going to be a candidate on the ballot for both of these awards, given what we've seen thus far and what I think he can continue to do, because we know he's fully capable of it when healthy. But I think at the end of the day, he's going to be one of those guys that's, it was nice that he was on the list, but I mean, I don't know if there's going to be serious consideration there. I think Victor Wembanyama is going to have a strong second half, and obviously still has plenty of the first half to kind of step up the defensive numbers as well. But I think the second half is going to be really, really turns it up a notch for the San Antonio Spurs. But we'll have to keep an eye on that. And let's not lose sight of the fact that their head coach, JJ Redick, did lose his voting capability, because last year he voted for these awards and no longer, because he decided to step into a coaching role. Next up, we've got the Sixers, Jared McCain, as a leading candidate for Rookie of the Year honors so far. World B, buy or sell?
At the moment, I'm absolutely buying. He is the most impressive rookie out there this season right now after 1 month in. There hasn't been a rookie more impressive than him. He wasn't my pick at the beginning of the year. We thought he could be a good player. I don't think anybody thought he was going to be a bad rookie on this team, but we thought he was going to be a complimentary player. And suddenly, because of all the injuries that Philly has had, he's becoming a leading player. I mean, the last 5 games, almost 27 points a game. I mean, that's really ridiculous. Shooting 44% from 3-point range. You just watch him on the court. He doesn't look like a rookie. He looks like he has NBA veteran moves. And there's no reason at this point to think there's anybody else who should be considered for the Rookie of the Year, besides Jared McCain.
Bruce?
I mean, right now, you have to say the answer is a resounding yes. I mean, Philly's got a terrible record, but he's played great ball. I mean, in the month of November, he's averaging just a tick below 20 points a game for the entire month. But, there's some other guys out there that we need to kind of keep half an eye on. I mean, look, Memphis has 2 rookies averaging in double figures, Zach Edey and Jalen Wells. And my preseason pick was Stephon Castle in San Antonio. And while he has contributed nicely to an up-and-coming team, his shots haven't really been falling as of yet. But I'm not bailing on him yet. I could see, if San Antonio continues to improve, eventually some of his shots are going to go in. So I think, he'll finish with a strong rookie year. Will he catch McCain? It's going to be really difficult. McCain's kind of out there by a number of lengths at this point. So, yes, I'm buying on him being the leading candidate right now.
Yeah, I'm buying it too, but
McCain, that is.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I follow you there. I'm buying that as well. But I, to your point, I think it's still a wide open race given how young this season is and the lack of candidates that have really emerged at this point in time as far as rookies are concerned. But as for McCain, I mean, he's been one of the few bright spots for this group so far. Maybe even arguably, some could argue he's been their best player. I mean, no disrespect to Tyrese Maxey at all, but the numbers kind of speak for themselves right now. He's certainly right up there. And I think the thing that might concern me moving forward with McCain as far as putting together a full 82 games of impressive play is the fact that if Embiid ever does come back healthy, Paul George is healthy, what do his numbers look like then? And then Maxey back in the mix. I think there could be a significant drop-off almost immediately, especially when Embiid's back. I mean, that's something that we need to keep an eye on too, and keep in mind when considering this. But as of now, I mean, it's a no doubter that I'm buying him as Rookie of the Year.
Hey, Ross, I think World B is very excited about some recent occurrences in the Philadelphia locker room. Aren't you, World B?
Oh, just hearing Tyrese Maxey call out Joel Embiid for being late to everything. I mean, this reminds me of the Yankees of the 70s, the Bronx Zoo. There was something ridiculous every day with that team, with George Steinbrenner, Billy Martin, Reggie Jackson, whatever. This is what it's becoming. This is what Philadelphia has become, the 76ers. From title contenders to, just a dysfunctional group that apparently can't show up on time.
Apparently Maxey and Embiid are actually quite close. And Maxey has been known to hold Embiid accountable on occasion, which is a pretty ballsy move for a young guy like Tyrese with the former MVP, being able to kind of call him out. But they've said, that Maxey really is a young guy with leadership skills. So that does bode well for him in his career. But I know that you really kind of got a kick out of that whole situation there, World B.
I'm just here for the chaos when it comes to the 76ers. That's all I'm here for. Everything else, I don't care about. I don't care how good they play. I don't care how poor they play. I'm just here for the chaos.
Well, let me stir the pot a little bit more for you, World B. I mean, I haven't seen any news updates or rumors on TikTok superstar Jared McCain's TikTok page. So who's the mole? Who leaked that information? Do you have any guesses which player on the roster was the one to tell the media that Maxey called out Embiid?
Well, it sounds like I would have to read the entire story. It sounded like some coaches were upset about Embiid being late as well. So I don't know who Sham's sources are, but if it came from him, you can pretty much go to the bank that it's on the money.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Maybe it was Nick Nurse.
It could have been, yeah. If I had to throw a player under the bus and take a guess, I'm going to go Kelly Oubre, but that's just a pure guess. He's a candidate in my book. Now, moving on here, let's talk about a former Sixers forward, and that is Jimmy Butler. Will Jimmy Butler still be on the Miami Heat at the end of the season? Buy or sell, Bruce?
I am selling. I felt for some time, actually since the end of last season, that the answer was going to be no, he won't be. But look, Miami is got one of the more shrewd front offices in the league. They know he's got value. They're only going to make a deal if it helps improve their team. And between injuries to contending teams or teams that are close enough to go for it, there's probably going to be a market for Jimmy around the trade deadline and it's a big if he's willing to accept a role and not be obsessed about his next contract until after the season. So, yeah, I'm selling. Jimmy Butler will not finish the season in Miami.
Will it be?
I'm buying that he'll still be with Miami. Bruce's points are very valid, and it could very well end up that he doesn't get traded if he wants. I keep going back to a few years ago, 2 seasons ago, when Jimmy Butler and those guys carried the Miami Heat all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals coming out of the play-in, when they beat the Milwaukee Bucks, when they beat the New York Knicks, and they got, they pushed the Celtics to 7. So, or they made made that nice playoff run. I think they're going to see everybody get healthy. Bam hasn't played very well. Tyler Hero's played very well so far for this team. I think they want to get everybody healthy. The Eastern Conference, as we talk about, is laughably mediocre right now. I mean, they're just the Orlando Magic are the 3rd best team in the conference, and they haven't beaten anybody during their current win streak. So it's really Cavaliers in Boston right now. I think Miami's going to look at this and go, let's get everybody healthy. Let's make a run that we can move up the ladder if we get everybody playing better, and let's see what happens. So I think he's going to stay.
All right. Well, I think he will be out of there by the end of the season. I think that the phone lines are already open to call Pat Riley and the front office staff. They are listening to offers. And I think as time goes on and gets closer to that deadline, those offers are only going to get better. My only question is, and this possibly turned out to be a blessing in disguise. I mean, actually has at this point, but Miami's kind of stingy with their trades. I mean, they weren't willing to kind of part ways with their like initial offer for Dame. So are they willing to take a little less than maybe what their expectations are? That's something that I question as well. But I think come deadline, there could be a couple first rounders, whispered into the phone line there, and it might be a little too hard to pass up, especially given the track record of Miami Heat drafting players. They've done an extremely great job picking guys in spots. I mean, Bam Adebayo was a late lottery pick. Same with Tyler Hero. Khalil Ware was one of the top guys in Summer League. So if they can get some good first-round picks, I think it'd be hard to pass that up to move on from Jimmy Butler, and could be a lot of fun to see where Jimmy could end up in that. Now, next up I'm going to start with you being our stat guru here on the show. Atlanta's Dyson Daniels will break the NBA's all-time record for most steals in the season, and I did my homework for you. It's currently held by Alvin Robertson with 301. And Dyson Daniels has 44 steals through 15 games played this season. Buy or sell, Dyson Daniels can break the record.
Well, I'm going to sell it just on the odds alone, just on the history alone.
Yeah.
I think it's worth selling. That being said, he's having an unbelievable season right now. He is one of the leaders. One thing that gives him a shot is I believe he's top 5. He might be top 2. After we're done with this show, in deflections. They chart deflections at the NBA.com website, and he's right up there. Deflections lead to steals. Steals lead to points at the other end, blah, blah, blah. So if he's going to keep getting his hands all over the ball, there's no reason to think why he can't do it. I'll just take my chances that the record will stand with Alvin Robertson.
All right, Bruce, what's your take?
I'm selling. I mean, look, I know he's leading the league by a mile right now, but Alvin Robertson's record is safe. Daniels has played 13 of 15 games. He's got 3.4 steals a game. If he plays every game the rest of the way, that'll be 80 games. And if he averages that same pace, he'll end up at 272, which is 29 short. Excuse me. Don Buzzi of the old Pacers had the second most steals in a season at 281. So Daniels could challenge for number 2, but number 1 will be a bridge too far.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you guys as well. As exciting as the start of the season has been for Dyson Daniels, and just the overall surprise and how well he's playing. I mean, it doesn't look like they're missing DeJounte Murray much. I think they've got a steal in Dyson Daniels coming over on a much more friendlier contract, along with some other pieces moving on from DeJounte Murray in Atlanta. So that seemed to be like a blessing in disguise for them. But 301 is going to be tough to match. Given the hot start, I just don't think he can keep this up and get to the point to where, he's shattering that record this year. So
you're just happy you got Dyson Daniels in the show. You got your goal.
I love it.
Today.
I love it.
You achieved your goal today. You got Dyson Daniels in the show. We're good.
Yes.
Can Gigi Jackson be far behind?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't suited up yet, unfortunately. That's a sore subject, pun intended, Bruce. Come on. All right, well, we're going to stick to numbers here, and we're going to talk about a guy that we talk about a lot on this podcast, and that is the Joker. Will the Joker average a triple-double this season? He's currently averaging 29.7 points per game, 13.7 rebounds per game, and 11.7 assists per game. Bruce, can he keep this up?
He's got 6 triple-doubles in 12 games, and he finished either 1 rebound or 1 assist short in 2 other games, so he could have 8 triple-doubles out of 12 games. He came very close the last 2 seasons as far as averaging a triple-double. He's climbing the list of all-time triple-double leaders, which I believe he will eventually be atop. If he cared as much about triple-doubles as his teammate Russell Westbrook did, he could easily average a triple-double this season. I'm not sure he really cares enough to go for it unless it comes within the context of his normal game. But I think he's going to do it. I think he will average a triple-double this year. I'm buying.
All right. Will be?
I'm selling. I don't think he'll get the assists in the end, simply because this team is lost if he's not on the court doing whatever. So I suppose with him on the court, they have a chance, and he has a chance to do it, I guess. I just don't. There's nobody to pass her right there. There's nobody to score off his passes because Joker is the offense. It's it's almost 30 a night from him, and the difference when he's on the court and off the court for Denver is astronomical in terms of efficiency on offense. So I just don't know if he'll have enough support from guys to keep that double-digit assists up. I think he, if he gets some help in that regard, he absolutely can. I just don't, Aaron Gordon's hurt. Jamal Murray's been in and out of the lineup. Christian Braun's been solid, but this, you need these guys for the whole year. And if they're healthy the rest of the year, he's got a shot at it. I just don't think they're going to have enough healthy quality players to do it.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I'm selling this, but I do want to point out the fact that he does have help with the triple doubles in the locker room because he's got a teammate in Russell Westbrook that knows a thing or two about averaging a triple double for a season. So maybe he can light a fire under him. Come on, you got to start padding your stats. You got to look at the box score or the jumbotron and chase those stats because I remember as good as Russell Westbrook was in OKC, he definitely was stat chasing at the end of some of those games to be sure he was on pace for that triple-double average. Now, to close out the show here, fellas, let's go ahead and get to some quick hitters. Bruce, we're going to start with you as our ESPN guy. Big news out of ESPN and TNT. Inside the NBA is surprisingly going to be aired on ESPN and ABC next season. So we'll start with you for your thoughts.
I have some mixed feelings about this, as you can imagine. Many of our listeners know I was a member of the ESPN NBA team for more than 20 years. Some of my former colleagues and friends still work on the NBA studio project. People like Mike Wilbon, Stephen A. Smith, Chiney Ogwumike, they've all been fixtures on the pregame show at one time or another, not to mention a bunch of talented production folks. I feel bad that ESPN is allowing the TNT crew to Bigfoot their own people, but it's difficult to find fault with the move by ESPN because Inside the NBA is the gold standard of NBA studio shows, and ESPN could never match it despite many efforts, some of which I thought were sort of panic changes, chasing after a ghost that they were never going to catch. So if you can't beat them, poach them. The good news for ESPN's NBA crew is that there's still plenty of real estate on the network with NBA Today and a ton of games where the TNT crew will not be used. So hopefully nobody's going to be out of work as a result. And I think, for NBA Nation, they're ecstatic that show will live on even after NBA on TNT is no longer a thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm ecstatic to have that crew still together and assembled. And I'd even argue it's the best studio show in sports. I think they're that good. Wilby, what was your reaction to the news?
I was surprised at first when it happened because I didn't see it coming. This is really good for the NBA, and eventually it'll be good for ESPN and ABC. But it's a terrible look for ESPN and ABC that after 20 some odd years of trying to get it right, they're basically admitting we can't do it. We couldn't do it right, whether it was their own fault or just the viewers didn't respond. Whatever the case may be, it just didn't work. And I think this is more of an indictment of ESPN's inability, not just to match this great show, which I agree with you, Ross, is the premier, sports show like this in all the sports, but not just but just better their own, reach their own, excellence, for whatever lack of a better phrase. And it's disappointing to see ESPN not be able to match that or get a better quality product out there. But in the end, like I said, this is a great move for the NBA, and in that regard, everybody, benefits.
Now, Bruce, one last question I have for you on this. Do you think ESPN will tweak the show at all, or do they know that they're going to get backlash from those personalities? Like, don't try to change anything we do.
Why buy the show if you're going to mess the show up? Okay. It ain't broke. Don't break it.
Got it. Just had I was really curious to get your thoughts on that. But moving on, let's get your thoughts on this, Bruce. The Boston Celtics become the first team this NBA season to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they did it in the Emirates NBA Cup game, winning at home 120-117. So what's your big takeaway from taking down the only undefeated team remaining in the league?
They shot 22 out of 41 on three-pointers. That's 53.7% for an entire game. They outscored Cleveland on threes by 36 points, okay? They dominated the first half. Cleveland put on a furious rally in the third quarter and for a good chunk of the fourth quarter, but they dug themselves a 21-point hole, and I just thought it was a little bit too much for them to overcome, and it turned out that that's correct. But boy, oh boy, you got to respect Cleveland. They never gave an inch. They were, they couldn't stop Boston. They couldn't stop Jason Tatum. They couldn't stop the three-point shooters, but they hung in there. Darius Garland was brutal on Tuesday night, 3 out of 21 from the floor. I mean, if he even had an average game, Cleveland maybe would have been 16-0, but he didn't, and they aren't.
Yep. World B, any thoughts?
Yeah, the playbook for the Celtics is really simple. It's really not what anybody else does. It's what Boston does. If Boston's hitting their threes like they were on Tuesday night, because they shoot such a high volume of their shots from three-point range, and they make them, it's almost impossible to beat them. You have to match that unbelievable shooting. That's very difficult to do. Now, when we saw Boston play some tight games earlier this season and lose some games, is when those shots aren't falling. So if those shots aren't falling, now you've got a chance. But it's really based on what Boston does. If they shoot the three, you're in trouble. If they don't shoot the three well, you got a shot.
Yeah, I got to give some kudos to the Celtics here in this one, especially given the fact that last week, Bruce, we were saying they're winning some games, but they're not playing their best brand of basketball. They played their best brand of basketball against the best team in basketball so far this year here tonight, and really took it to them and made a statement that, hey, we're still the reigning champs. We're the team to beat. And so a big statement win for Boston here on Tuesday night. And with that, Bruce, I say congratulations to you and the Celtics.
Yeah.
And as for the show, that will do it for this edition of the 48 Minutes podcast on Believe, presented by Bet Online. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back with you next week to be sure you're up to date in 48 on all things around the association. Take care, everyone.